There are just some conversations that a young lady will have at some point in her life that will be extremely tough to talk about. But it's those kinds of conversations that will create healing for that young lady.
I didn't realize I was molested until about 3 years ago. And that I was molested when I was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I didn't even realize it.
So I wanted to create a conversation that will be healing for a young lady. But I couldn't do it alone. So I invited 4 phenomenal women that I think represent empowerment. Sherith Beth, who is a local pastor in Alabama. Capricia Mari, who is a life coach. Mo Jackson, who is the CEO of her own company, Mo Moves. And Toya Tucker, who is a local politician in Columbus, Georgia. The stories that these women will tell will inspire you. Do you think that young women are good at showing their emotions? And if not, why not? Because there are some women who think, I'm talking about young women now. Young women I know, some of you know, that think they got it all together, right? They think life is, this is what it is, right? They think, I guess it appears that they have to be strong so that they won't show any kind of signs of vulnerability, right? Because vulnerability is supposed to be weakness, but it's really a sign of courage. So why is it so hard for our young women to show emotion?
Look at our culture. Our culture right now says, don't you show that. Don't, be hard. It's that, I like our music, I like what we do, but I can't deny. Our culture right now says, look, hey, you dust it off. Get up, this, that, and the third. Our culture doesn't say, hey, you okay?
Right.
You need a minute?
Yeah. I was going to say, the sad thing is, it's always been that way.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when I was growing up, if I fell, I don't care if I was bleeding.
Lord.
Get up, it's just a little scratch.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That part.
But they just look at you, you trying to figure out why nobody
wrong with you. And you bleeding to the white meat.
Right.
Get up. That's true.
Right.
Get up.
But it's in those small moments, though, they create those big moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like what Pastor said, it's a build-up. What you said earlier about
it's building blocks.
we get to that big moment and it's like an overflow of things. But if you would have let us cry and tend to our need,
for 5 minutes,
then we would have understood how that emotion, because you don't even understand how to express the emotion.
Wow.
Right. Because you have been silenced of
put in your place.
expression. You can't even express yourself. You can't express pain, hurt, sorrow. You feeling empty. You can't express yourself, because I wasn't able to express me falling and scraping my knee. I wasn't able to express, if you spank me, you better stop crying.
Right.
You can't express your feelings. You know who you are. So we're all confused because we can't even express ourselves. We don't know how to.
we know what we're feeling.
But we don't know what the expression
all kind of ways.
Right.
I feel like this. We don't know how because mama didn't know.
Right.
And grandma didn't know how. So you got a whole line of
generation
people who are silenced at birth. Because that's the first thing we do as mothers is we shush them.
Yeah.
And so when we nurture them, we coddle them, but we shush them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the very first thing that you teach that child. You don't need to scream. You know, this is something that I've had to learn as a mother, is that sometimes they're going to do exactly what they want to do. But it's not a matter now of them giving us our moment to verbalize our emotions. It's us taking our moment back. Because you took our voice from us as babies. And now I'm a woman.
Right.
So all I know how to do is shh, be quiet, baby. You know,
right.
I'm going to rock you because I want to soothe you now.
Right.
So I give you this pacifier. I'm giving you this moment to calm yourself down. But what happens when you calm that baby down and it's still an issue? Because you calm me down for so long, and you know there's a method to your madness.
Right.
Hey, silence yourself because you're getting out of pocket. But then what happens after that?
Well,
that's why we have broken women. That's exactly why.
And what's amazing about that, what I have learned is it follows us into adulthood.
Yes, it does.
One of the things, I'm 42. And as a 42-year-old, I honestly feel like I'm 24 at times, depending on who's in the room.
Right.
And it is always stay in your lane. You can't.
At your age?
At my age.
Really?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At my age, it's stay in your lane. Now, this is a person who has worked for a 4-star general, who's done logistical work to save Americans, sent a whole 16 team on my own. I was handpicked by the general, by the 4-star. She can do it. Leave Toya alone. Let her do it.
Right.
And it was a no notice. We had Americans that was captured in Europe, and we had to get them out.
And they still tell you the same.
But here it is, a 4-star general had that much respect to point me out of everybody. Only enlisted person. All these 1-star, 4-bird colonels. 1-star generals, 4-bird colonels, and this enlisted person was the one that saved the Americans, that got the team going, that sent the cable to George Bush. You know, and it irritates me being here in this environment to be silenced like that.
Really?
By people who you respect because they want you to stay in your lane. And I'm not used to that because what the Air Force taught me is that the road is open. The sky's the limit. The world is yours. Take it. Grab it, go, aim high. That's things that I've been taught. So now I come home and I'm almost having to be right. I'm I'm retraining my mind and who I am to fit what
somebody else's standard.
There's this guy I met. He was here training from Hungary, and I was talking to him about being from the North because I'm from New York. Okay. And things are different there. Right. I feel like Black people are more liberated in the North. Okay. Personally. Okay. It's not as being proud to be Black is not as stigmatized as it is here. And the guy from Hungary said, "You've assimilated, huh?" And that English wasn't even his first language. And I was like, well, you know, I if I was in a different setting, I'd do more, but I try not to do too much.
So he meant you've been quieted.
Yeah, from a whole nother country. He wasn't supposed to know that word. And when he used the word assimilation on me, it made me think different.
About yourself.
About myself. Like, God, I think I did assimilate. I don't think I was supposed to do that. And then you have, for me, I left America totally because I wasn't getting the support. I just said, forget it. I wasn't even in the military. I just said, forget it. Let me walk away because I thought, as a young Black woman, all I needed was a little bit of money. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. It didn't work. I had the money, and I had I had some passion. You know what I mean? Right. I'm like, here I am. Let me get some help. Right. Somebody help me. So surely somebody's gonna help me. I got little resources now. Right. It didn't work like that, and I felt like I was pushed out of the Tri-City area to a whole nother portion of the map. And when I came back and did some protesting. So we were looking at how did I feel about George Floyd. Well, I said, here we go again.
Another hashtag.
Here we go again. We got to go through this again. So I think Black people need to help each other more and reach out to each other more. Right. Because we kick each other out of places. Of our own communities. People say I've been put in my place. Like, you know, who do you think you are? Right. Or who you supposed to be? So
that must be common in you guys' area. Absolutely. As far as being women in leadership positions.
Absolutely. I'm probably I don't know anybody else that's pastoring. I'm 30 years old. I started pastoring at 29. I'm a female pastor in a very traditional setting. I didn't start a ministry because most female pastors start ministries. They don't go to a church where they're voted in. I was voted in. And the whole thing was, where did this little girl come from? Right. And so I'm like, wait a minute. Now, I'm grown. Right. I got kids. Right. You know, and so then when I get there, it was so many men that started to just really come at me, like not with baby claws either. It was big guys. My parents are pastors. So I'm looking at guys that's 63, 65 trying to figure out, how did you end up with this church? And I'm thinking to myself, when did things change where nobody had, you had to be a certain age to deliver the word.
Right.
You had to be a certain gender to deliver the gospel. If our objective is to serve this present age, that's what the Bible says. I'm in a place now where I can't serve the present age if my body's not well, if my health is not where it should be, if I'm not relating to the people in my community. So we have a problem with me now, and you're telling me to be quiet. And so I'm like, am I really young David now? Because I am fighting Goliath after Goliath after Goliath, and I don't feel like I have enough stones to fight because I don't have that support to say, you know what? I don't care if you were a little boy or a little girl. Your strength does not lie in your age, and it doesn't lie in your gender. But when you're called to something, nobody can separate your purpose from you. That's who you are. That's who God called you to be. So I can definitely understand that.
So who silenced you? Who silenced you, Mom? Let's go back. Take me back. Because somebody silenced all of you to make you feel that way.
If I want to say who silenced me, for one, it was me. I silenced me because I started to realize that I was different. And when I started to realize that it's something happens to you when you're being yourself in a moment and you catch that one look out the corner of your eye, somebody looking at you like, it does something to you.
Right.
Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
You in your zone. It's about 50 people in the room that feel you. Like, you can be, you ain't got to be preaching nothing. You just be being yourself. And like, that girl cool, but it's something about catching that one that's looking at you like, who she thinks she is? And for some reason, my entire life, up until this day, because not this day, but I figured it out. That's who I paid attention to.
Wow.
I didn't pay attention to them. I played basketball for years. I played Division I basketball at the University of Mississippi, transferred to Tennessee at Martin, was getting ready to play professional basketball. I played basketball all my years of high school. I probably had thousands of people who have really just been down like, that girl, who she do this? Right. I can name every person who badmouthed. I can name every person who told me I was not SEC material.
You never forget how people make you feel.
But it bothers me because I want to remember the people who said, girl, I've been ride with you. You know how crazy it is for me to have a business like Mo Moves and me finally to walk in my purpose and in my truth. And it's people coming out the woodworks that's been like, I've been watching you. And I'm like, it does something in my heart because I wish I would have given my energy to you versus these people over here who told me what I wasn't. And this whole time you've been watching me since day one. And you had so much grace and mercy in your heart that you saw past that I looked over you.
Come on. That's good. Right there.
But Mo, nobody taught you to focus on them and not the other one?
Focus on the good.
You couldn't tell me nothing.
Pastor, go ahead.
I was going to ask, why not? Why couldn't a person tell you? Like, why couldn't they tell you anything?
Because I felt like I was supposed to know it all.
And why did you feel like you had to know it all?
Because I was Monique Jackson, the black girl who played basketball.
So at a certain age, you were already at a certain level that people probably couldn't get to.
They put you up there.
Yes. Once you take somebody and say, oh, this what you gonna be.
Right.
Boom.
They're going to do it.
And you do that to a child?
Yeah.
Don't ever think a child is not listening. Don't ever think a child is not feeling. They empathize. They suck it in.
Wow.
And they internalize it. I internalized it for a very long time. Being so perfect. I mean, one of the traits that you can always see about me to this day, I'm always keep my hair done. Why?
Because somebody says
my mom taught me, and
I'm always keep my hair done. That's one of the ways and it's not a bad thing it's a good byproduct. But you ask any black girl why she always keep her hair done. That's one thing that's one thing.
Wow, I
gotta
had
have
no
control.
idea.
You see,
I'm
really tuned into this conversation because this is something that I question because I deal with my degree is in psychology.
Okay.
And so I'm always asking, why do people do what they do?
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I'm always trying to figure out, especially if I've gotten close to a person and I want to see them succeed. Right?
I know how that feels.
Absolutely.
Right?
Right.
And you're like, hey, I don't want them to fall. But I see it. I see the fall. It's going to happen.
Right.
But I'm trying to help you
But they're not listening.
fall. Because I've experienced such a hard fall in life. A hard fall.
Dealing with what?
One, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. My kid's dad. I mean, like serious domestic violence, death.
But that was. But before that, when you were younger.
And I was and so I was molested at a young age. I was I had an incident with a possible date rape, and I was able to get away. But things like that, and I always ask myself, like, why me? You know, like, why did I have to go through the sexual trauma? You know, all the time, and I still ask myself that. But I know one day somebody's gonna come to me and need what I have in me to help me get through that, because it was a reason why God placed that on me,
which is hard to get to.
And it is,
which is really hard to get to that space. Go ahead.
I didn't realize I was molested until about 3 years ago, and I was molested when I was 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Wow.
and I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize nothing. I didn't know that was wrong.
Wow.
And I was triggered in my adult life.
wow.
And you wonder, like you're saying, why did this happen to me? Or how did I not understand what was going on? How didn't I get it? And why am I going through these flashbacks? And why am I going back in my mind like I'm 2?
It's suppressed.
Yeah, I'm going back to a kid. And what is this? And it's a process to understand. But it wasn't, we live our lives and we have our own self-coping mechanisms.
Wow. Self-medicate.
To suppress what we are dealing with. So for me, I just help everybody else and let me just not worry about myself.
Wow.
Because I feel good in the moment when I help somebody.
Right. So let me just forget about me. Forget me. Forget me. Don't worry about me. I'm not worried about me. And let me just forget it and help you.
Right.
So nobody has to worry about me.
Wow.
And then one moment, you breaking down. Like you about to have a nervous breakdown. It's like, who is here for me? I lived my life and I don't have no help. I helped all these people.
But you haven't helped yourself.
And I haven't even helped myself.
So let me ask you this. If you didn't get no help, if you couldn't help yourself and you were helping everybody else.
Couldn't help myself.
Were you fully helping them? Because if you didn't have it, how would you know who to give it? Right.
I guess we know something deep inside. And I've learned about, I went back into group, like working in group home, working with children. And I learned a word called cross interference.
Okay.
And I think that's what happened with me, is I began to learn more about rape, molestation, what is victimization, what is this? I'm like, this happened to me.
Now, how old were you when you found out?
When I found out I was raped?
Right.
That's about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. So I'm 28, I'm 26, 25, 26.
So you're still patching up the
I'm just getting through it. I'm just now visiting that place.
So I'm gonna say this.
Go ahead.
It is so weird.
Go ahead.
So I don't know what age I was when I had, and it was real kind of creepy. Just letting y'all know. But I was grown. And it was almost like you had like an out of body experience. I was dreaming, and I actually went back to the day it happened.
Wow.
And I can tell you where it was, how the person came in the room, coming to the bed, and I was asleep, and how they pulled my pants down.
Wow.
And it freaked me out. And when I woke up, I said, thank you, Lord, for covering me. Because he had covered me.
Talk about it.
Right? He covered me for all those years.
And you didn't know what was happening.
And I didn't know what was happening.
Right.
I didn't know what was happening.
I lost my mind.
And not only did I not know, even in the moment, I did not move and did not wake up. So it was like he kept me.
He kept me.
He kept me. I'm his child. It's like you know what I'm saying, like your parent, you know what I'm saying, keep you and protect you. He protected me that way. I did not see that at the 4-year-old stage, but I saw it later on.
After I learned some things.
As I learned some things, I saw it later on, and it wasn't until after I started counseling.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just imagine, you got a psychology degree.
Yeah. Right.
Mo, how can you relate?
I actually was going to go back to what you were saying about how do you know what to give, and it's that, and I'm going to share something. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't mind me sharing. I have a mentor, Pastor Andrea DeShields, and we were talking. She's a person that I don't talk to her often because I feel like she can look at my soul. You got one of them. That's why I've been trying to avoid it.
Don't look at her.
Right.
But when I say Pastor Miss Andrea, she took time to hear me. So we were talking one night. We're at my house, and she was only supposed to be able to 30 minutes. 4 hours later, 2 sermons later, Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts, she gets to talking with me, and I'm asking her questions because I'm in a place where I'm trying to understand why I gotta lose friends to elevate. And why I gotta lose my fun friends to elevate? You know, they weren't the good friends. They were just like the fun ones, you know.
The ones you like to have a good time.
Yeah. And I was like, and then after losing them, I was just like, I was asking her questions, trying to connect the dots. And this more so has to do with her going back. So as she's talking to me, I'm noticing she's going back. So the deeper I go with my questions, I'm looking at her. And God allowed me to feel it. She started to go back because she had to go back in order to give it to me. So I'm listening to her, and she shared one little story with me about her and a best friend and how they fell out and how it kind of broke her heart that they did and that they never really got back friends, but they had that closure talk. Oh, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Because that's what I was dealing with somebody who I really cared about as a friend. So she shared that story with me, and about 10 minutes after, that's when we left. She left. And I laid there that night, and I told her before she left, I kept telling her, thank you for sharing. Thank you. I was just like, thank you. And when she left, I laid in the bed, and I was praying. I was like, I was talking to the Lord, I let you see something about another one of my children tonight. I don't typically do that.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? He let me in
on that.
But you wasn't
He let me in on one of his other children's stories to help me. That is so deep and so personal on a level I cannot even fully articulate it. Part of me feels like that situation she is still healing from. But God used that moment to kill 1,000 birds with one stone because she has no idea what she did for me that night. I let it go that night. I was good that night. I understood that night. I was at peace. I had grace and mercy over the situation that night, that instant that she shared. It might have hurt her to tell me that story. And she might have went in her car driving thinking about that story. But she did something for me. She fixed the whole generation behind me.
Come on now.
And I don't even think she really understands it was just that deep. We talked for 4 hours, and for a 10-minute segment, that's the part that
changed me. Go ahead. No.
So I'm in this leadership class with Dr. Matthew Stevenson. And one of the things that we're learning right now is the power of pain. And there is power in our stories. You know what I'm saying? There's healing power in our stories. And we think about it the Bible is nothing but stories.
Love story time.
Right.
Right.
It's nothing but stories.
Absolutely.
So if the Bible has everything we need, anything that we need, we can pull from the Bible. And our stories are like intertwined. All of us. We probably can see, like you were saying, David and Goliath. I done had a David and Goliath moment.
Right.
You know, we all can see ourselves in those stories.
Right.
And it was that story that helped you. And it's stories
That help.
that helps. It's the stories. You know, we study, you know, we go to school, we get degrees, but it's the stories that are so lasting.
When the Bible says,
help.
yeah, like Pastor, and maybe you can help me. I don't know where it's at. Help me out. We are overcomers by the power
Blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
and the word of our testimony. And that's what I'm saying, going back to these old fashioned things that we used to do.
Come on.
Testifying.
Right.
Testimony. We don't do that no more. We don't talk about how the Lord brought me over. How did the Lord bring you over today? It's not common conversation anymore. And I think that we maybe could bring some of that back.
Right. I agree.
Testifying.
We have gotten to a point where our ancestors and those that came before us, they were okay with talking about story. So they would sit there and they would get themselves out of situations because of a story. Everything was a parable. Jesus spoke in parables. Right. So there was a reason behind that. This is what I tell everybody. I'm not big on titles or anything, but this is what I've learned. And I go back to my 3rd grade math class. I learned the principle of math, and then I read the examples. And then there was the word problem. So regardless of the fact that we've learned the principle of what sex is, what rape is, we've learned all of this. These are the principal moments. But when you get to the word problem, that requires you to show your work. When you show your work, this is me saying, I have to strategize and figure this out. Because sometimes I got to draw a picture for it to make sense.
Yeah.
So in order for me to draw this picture and for it to make sense for me, I got to take this same principle. Now I got to apply it. And that's where we are now. When we apply principle to our life now, I'm able to tell my daughters, hey, listen, this is what I went through. Because what I know about our generation is that because we're not told certain things by grandma and mama, our business stay in the house. And that storyline by itself has kept our business in the house. And now you got 50 girls who don't know anything about what it is for you not to show your candy line because we don't want to talk about this stuff. You see what I'm saying? So everybody gets offended. We are living in a time where not the saints, but the people are offended by everything. Everybody's wearing their feelings on their shoulder. You can't say this and you can't say this. You don't want to make this person mad. But we were taught because of hard lessons. They had to teach us these things. It was the things that made you mad. You know what? I see your brush strap. That made me so mad. But now I'm over here like,
okay.
I'm laughing because I know my daughter over there. She probably she heard that statement. I'm like, hey,
when you
fix
said
that bra.
That was it, Matthew. They'll feel me when I say that. That was one of the first lessons I got. I had a slip at 8.
Okay,
Yep, baby, I had it. And it slipped. You needed a one. I had it.
Full body, half slip.
Your underwear were your size.
They wasn't too
Throw
size,
them
too
too
small.
little this and too little that.
That's
Right.
You just said something then.
But we helped each other back then, and I asked a lot of times, like, how did we get here? And it's funny that I asked that, but when I left for the Air Force, I left March of '97. When I left, I felt like a shift. And it was not a good shift. Like, I felt something bad was about to start going on here in Columbus, Georgia. Like, I just really felt it. It was almost like a dark cloud was coming over. And I just remember speaking to my friends that stayed across the street, and I can just see it. And I was like, man, I wish I could just for real help them, but I gotta go.
Gotta go.
You know what I'm saying? And then maybe one day.
Right, but
I'll
you had
come
to
back.
leave to get to pour in so you can pour. Right.
Yeah, I was like, maybe one day I'll come back. That was my thought process at 19. Like 19 and 3 months old. So that was my thought process, is that I was feeling like I was leaving behind people that I needed to help.
Wow.
Leaving Columbus?
Because my you know how we had them play cousins. them play cousins. It was a young girl who I had with me from the time I was in 3rd grade and she was in kindergarten. And I had, she was my dog. So anytime you saw me, you saw her. Hey, in the morning time, let's go ride bikes.
Right.
I was that big sister, even though she had a sister, but I was that big sister that she could talk to. And it was like that from all the way at that age to think about it. I'm in 12th grade and she is behind me. And I'm like, man, I'm leaving her.
Right.
And that's all I could. I honestly cried on the bus to Atlanta because I'm like, I'm leaving her. And I knew I was leaving her to something so tragic. And when I came back, when I retired out of the Air Force and I came back and we had a long conversation, she told me about this dark times that she went through. And I'm crying now because I'm that connected to her. It hurt me even now. Because I'm like, I left her.
Mm.
I left her. I was her person.
That God sent.
And I left her.
You.
For the time, though.
Well,
and it's always about a time.
Right. No. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's always about a time. Go ahead.
Well, people have their times and their seasons, And it's so important to know for a time. I lost some people that helped me. Mm-hmm. Even most of the people I know, they gone. They in heaven, hopefully. And I feel alone. Like, sometimes I feel like, dang, I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm. You still feel that way?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes, if I don't remember, okay, it's a cloud of witnesses in heaven.
Right.
Yeah. It's a cloud of witnesses, got a cloud of witnesses.
But you know what? But I wonder how many other young women feel that way.
Alone. Like, they're alone.
Right.
And, they feel love, But you have to reach. You got to kind of reach out of that place. Because can't nobody really help you but the Lord. And you. It's a blessing to have support. Thank God for it.
Right.
But that support changes. When God said, I won't leave you comfortless, I send you a comforter.
Right.
The Holy Spirit worked through different people at different times. Mm-hmm. And God didn't put, and I had to learn this, God didn't put society, the whole world on my shoulders.
Come on now.
Wow. That's good.
He didn't do that.
That's so good.
Now,
that's real good.
Now let's go there, because I'm pretty sure you're not the only woman that feels that way. Mm-hmm. Because as women, you guys are nurturer anyways. Mm-hmm. Naturally teachers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Let's speak about it.
Before I went to ministry, it was thought that I was going to go into ministry.
Right.
So I meant I wasn't going in it,
right.
Because I watched my parents. They worked the church, right? Mm-hmm. And they had all these people that was at everybody's graduation, and when somebody got sick and then when there was a funeral, they were always there. And I always felt like, y'all never saw me. Mm. There are 3 of us, well, it's 4, but my oldest sister lives out of town. And we were all right there, and I'm like, you're saving everybody else's kids, but you can't see us. Mm. And at that time growing up, I didn't realize that they needed them more than we did, because I wanted them to be right here. So now that I'm an adult and I'm looking at my little kids, I christened your baby, and I've been to the hospital on behalf of your son, and now my little girl wants to play with dogs. So because I've taken the world on, not because it was my assignment, because something I assigned myself to. When I assigned myself to everybody, then I lost myself in that. And see, we don't look at how these spirits attach to us, because you'll mess around and deal with somebody who's dealing with depression, and you may not be depressed at all. And then here's something you're dealing with now. Now you're trying to pull yourself out of that place, because how do you help people and not get attached to their situation?
Right.
How do you draw that thin line of separation where it's like, you know what, when I leave here, because everybody has said, when I leave this job, I'm leaving this job here.
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
How in the world do you leave your job where it is when you have a heart like that?
Right.
Everybody sitting in this room, you have a heart for people.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave here, you're going to think about my story.
Right.
I'm going to think about your story.
Right.
We're going to be thinking about this for a while, because of the fact that our hearts are set up to, we absorb everything that's around us.
Wow.
So as women, now we've gotten to a point where if I can't save you, I'm going to break my back.
Mm.
And if I die breaking my back for you, it's okay. Because it's game still, because maybe I helped you. But then you can't return that back to me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So now I'm broken. You're whole.
Empty.
You're whole, I'm broken. And then who fixes me? Because now you're able to go on, live your life, do what you're doing. And I'm sitting here a bunch of broken pieces.
But again, that goes back to us not teaching our young women that they do have to be full in order to pour into somebody.
If there's any lesson I got from that, it was from my mother. Now I say, my mama, I have a stepfather, but it was me and her.
Mm-hmm.
My mom.
Good relationship with your mom?
Hmm?
You had a good relationship
Oh
with
yeah,
her?
still do. That's my
Okay.
girl now.
Right.
But you got to understand when you're equipped to do those things, though.
Yes.
Break that down for me, Mom.
When you're equipped to go and christen that baby or be at that birth, and then also be able to make sure your kids know you're loving you too. My mom mastered it. I kid you not. And I have a living testimony. My god sister, Carrie Washington, I'm going to tell her to watch this. I played basketball, like I told you, and I played travel league. For some reason, I never seen my mom as like a socialite. She was just kind of like the quiet lady who went to sleep during the games and made sure I was okay.
Right.
So my mom would do all this stuff before summer. Reach out to my dad. Mo needs her dues for basketball. She got to have shoes. She got to have a bag. Boom, 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 boom. She'll do all this running around. Pay out my fees, all this stuff. So I'm good. I'm good to go. Mo's taken care of. My mom would come on the trips with me. She'd be like, all right, here's $40. Be smart with your money. Get your lunch, your breakfast, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, Mom, cool, I'm out. Because she's made sure I'm okay. I'll go back. The day will go on. We'll go to the hotel room. I'll look at my mom's car because I'm out with everybody else.
Right.
And I see 3 girls. None of them me because I'm out here. My mama done took care of this one, that one, and the other one. My mama brought in my sister, Carrie Washington, at 14 years old. She's older than me. My mom was vested in that young lady to the point where she went down to, I think it's Dawsonville, Georgia.
Right.
I never forget that day. All I was doing was in the car. She walked in that house, packed up Carrie's stuff herself, put it in the car, in our car, and drove back with me. I didn't understand what I was watching until this day. But what I was watching was my mom be a mom. I was watching my mom's heart on display. You good? Okay, because I'm finna go take care of this one right here.
Yeah.
And that's what showed me, if she can be equipped to do that, and I'm still okay, I can learn to be equipped. I don't have to take on the whole world of society. But if somebody walks towards me and they having a bad day, ain't no reason why I should stop and give them my attention. That's what I got from my mom. I can't take on the whole world, but if something is in alignment with me,
Right.
I got to drop what I'm doing,
Right.
just like she did.
And I'm sorry.
So how do we get to a place where we teach our young women that it's okay to pour into somebody, but you got to keep you full? Is that what you're saying?
You have to have a relationship with God. That's where I see it, because I know that God gives us what we need.
Okay.
So, and I say this, and I'm always talking about divine. Like, me meeting Capricia was divine. I met her on Macon Road in front of Citizens Trust Bank, and she stood out there and held my yard sign and waved for an hour in 2018. Right? So, and we were connected. And I just really believe in God's divine order. I mean, I truly do. And when I say that, when I speak to people who I come in contact with, it's always divine. Like, this timing was divine. Me meeting Mo was divine. And that was in 2018. And when she was basically
clueless, you
right.
I
Don't say it like that. But she had questions, and I didn't mind talking to her, like she was my little sister. Like, hey,
she did.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna pull you to the side.
But I'm gonna look at this camera to answer your question. Look, y'all, get some Jesus. I'm telling you, don't be sidetracked. Jesus is good.
Yes, he is.
Right. He asking the question of how do we know? How do we tell our young girls it's okay? Get with Jesus first. I know you might feel like Jesus don't fool with nobody like me. I've been out here doing hot girl stuff, Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, wop. Yeah. It is okay. I'm here to tell you it is okay. Pick up that Bible.
Right.
Open it.
Now, who was the harlot? Who was the harlot that Jesus used? Rahab. So if he used the harlot, okay, he can use anybody. He what? Huh? It's a prostitute.
I was about to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so
a harlot.
He can use anybody.
And a murderer, which is Paul.
Right.
Then he can use anyone.
So listen, let's say this. What do we say to a young girl who has lost herself and is looking for herself in a relationship? With a man that doesn't deserve who she is.
Jesus the man.
I want to let you know that I love you.
Right.
If you, first of all, I love you. You don't need him to love you, girl. I love you. You beautiful. You don't gotta wait for him to tell you, girl. Let me tell you now. You got this. It's okay. You don't appreciate. I love you for real. You don't have to. You don't have to go through that at all. Do you know what you're worth? Do you know God loves you? You don't have to settle. You don't have to settle for less than the best. You deserve the best. You're valuable.
Right.
You have to learn how to love yourself. I grew up. I had low self-esteem. My father, he was a veteran. He ended up self-medicating. So, in the late 70s or 80s, crack came on the scene, and he was addicted to drugs.
Talk down to you though.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't. I mean, he didn't never talk down to me. Just really very educated person, very smart, Morehouse man. So very educated. He never did, but he could not share love because he did not have the love in him for himself.
Right.
So because you keep coming back to that question about can you give what you don't have? Yeah. So when you're having a struggle with love, with loving yourself, and that's something that I told my son, I asked him straight up, like, hey, you love yourself? I said, because the only way you're going to love anybody else is if you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, what you showing to whoever you with is not love.
But is that enough?
What is enough?
Is loving yourself enough? Because I know some young ladies who say, I can say all day I love myself, but if I don't know it for myself,
like you gotta know it. But that's revealed from God, and I'll let you
go ahead,
as the pastor.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a pastor, but I'm a realist, and I'm a woman.
Come on, tell me.
And because I'm a woman, I would like to tell everybody that if you know the love of God, that's enough for you to go and live your life and be prosperous and in good health.
Right.
But the reality of it is, when you don't identify with yourself, it's not even enough to love yourself if you don't identify with yourself. There are some things that I can say I hated about me. I didn't like the way I looked in the mirror. I was just saying the other day, I'm 30 years old. I've had a gap my whole life. You said something earlier about who silenced you. In second grade, a boy says to me, why you got that gap? And so from second grade up until 3 days ago, I asked myself the same question.
Wow.
Why do you have this gap?
Wow.
And so I silenced myself because I didn't want to open my mouth.
Wow.
I didn't want anybody to see that because I was so self-conscious about this gap. Wow. So I go into the dentist and he says to me, the reason that you have this gap is because the nasal passage is so small and that the intrusion in your mouth, it allowed you to open your mouth and breathe. So had you not had that gap,
you'll have problems.
I would have breathing problems. See? So what happens is learning to love the thing about me that looks the ugliest about myself. The thing that we have to literally repurpose everything.
Yes.
When you repurpose the things you don't like about yourself, maybe I am aggressive. Maybe I do talk loud.
Right.
But God has purpose for me. So when I repurpose that love, I'm okay now. I can get to the point where I know how to love you and not hate you because I didn't recognize what it was about myself that I really like. I gotta like me. Because you get in relationships, you don't start off loving them. You start off liking them. And the truth of the matter is, we don't like us. When we look in the mirror, we see blemish here, things we don't like. I don't want my nose to, you know what I'm saying? If you can move some things about yourself, when you start looking at you, and then people don't see you the way you see you.
Right.
So that's why our relationships have failed, and that's where our little girls are having issues because they've already decided what they are. We've told them what they are, what they're going to be. So when they get in a relationship and somebody tells them the complete opposite, it's like that one little thing. I like your gap. Guess what they started making me do? Maybe I can deal with it.
Right.
And so that turns into an infatuation with that thing. So I got to figure out a way. If it's not my teeth that I like, then let me make sure my hair is right. And if I can't get my hair right, let me make sure I wear the baddest shoe because you're going to notice one thing about me that I love about myself. And when I do that and the man tells me, she dresses nice, or she always got her hair done, you're going to blow that thing up past the moon. And now you think you're in love with somebody that you really don't even know.
Come on.
But we as women give men our blueprint by telling them, well, when I was in this relationship, all they did was do this.
Wow.
So what you do now? I'm going to tell you that, and guess what that man doing? Oh, okay, so he never compliment you? Oh, you so pretty. You're so beautiful.
They bait on your insecurities.
Like, oh, what's going on? Because you gave them your blueprint. And they don't have to work for you anymore. See, when our parents and stuff, they were growing up, you know, you got to get to know somebody. You got to sit down and have that conversation. But we tell them our favorite color on the first date. We tell them what we like to eat. They don't have to worry about it no more. Oh, I know you like green because you wear green all the time. But no, not us. We're going to stay up all night. And I love green. I like to eat Chinese food. Guess what? By Friday, you're going to have something green. And you're going to eat
I need a new lesson on dating after this.
But let me ask you this though. There are some young ladies who get into relationships broken.
Yes.
Right? And try to fix him as if they're doing him a favor. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I picked up one of those not too long ago.
Okay. You said you picked up one of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
I hope you watch it, sir.
That's okay. Just give it to him.
Right. Right.
Toxic.
But how did you get there though?
Honestly, the Black Lives Matter happened. I'm gonna be real honest.
Go ahead.
Black Lives Matter happened again. And I was in this mode of thinking about my black brothers. And I was saying, well, Lord, I'm widowed, but maybe I've been too hard on them. Maybe I need to lighten up a little bit on the brother. Maybe I got some high standards. They really is high. Let me bring them down. Let me be more reasonable. And I was bored.
Let me be more reasonable. I'm sorry. I'm stuck on this. Right.
Everything was shut down. COVID wasn't working. Get a little unemployment. I had time.
Right.
To mess around in your
idle time.
Idle time. Idle time.
What did he do for you though?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Oh Jesus.
Nothing.
What did you expect him to do?
I wanted to. I said, well, if I was gonna help this brother as a young black man,
right?
Maybe I can help a black brother.
Right.
Maybe something good will come out of this, because our black men are messed up right now.
Right.
They need a little help. Let me, be a little light on them. But it didn't help anything. So I guess I learned from that. You can't help a man. You can't make as a woman. We can love love our brother as a brother, a man as our brother, but you can't make a man love you, And I think that we ourselves have our own insecurities that we desire.
Goes back to the same thing, right?
To be fulfilled. So now it's like, well, okay, well, dang, I ain't had no attention in ever long. This sounded pretty good to me. And then
put yourself into
tickle the ear.
I gotta go back to what, because I feel like you just coming from my neck, child. Ooh, you looked in
so
my
recap.
eyes. I had to be locked.
She looked in
She
your
was
eyes.
talking to me. You were talking to me.
She looked into my eyes.
When you said, ooh, when you spoke about the things about yourself that you don't like, and you trying to maneuver them and make them acceptable for the world.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, and I hope any young lady out there who hears this understand me. This is why I go with Christ. When I got with him, every last single thing, I'm loud. I talk a lot sometimes. I get confused sometimes. I stutter and I jumble and I don't like it. It makes me cringe. But when I got with Christ, Christ said, I know you do all those things. You be feeling silly, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
But I got some children that they appeal to that right there.
Yeah.
They appealed. So when I got with Christ, Christ said, I was like, Lord, why I gotta talk like this? Why I gotta be the one who gotta be like, why is my personality like this? And I can't help it. God says it's because I got somebody down there that is you are the assigned person. You are the assigned personality to catch their attention, to get them to me. How I made you has nothing to do with you.
Wow.
It got everything to do with me.
Wow.
So I need you to stop worrying about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was just a month ago that I've started to try the series that I'm doing on Facebook right now about these 4 words. When I laid that down, he gave me that and I picked that up because I didn't want to talk on camera. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want people to see my impediments. I didn't want people to see my dyslexia. I didn't want people to see how unfocused I can be when I talk. But when I laid down my insecurities, realizing that God was going to pick them up and build this thing.
Come on now.
That was all I needed. And that's why I tell you, just go with Christ.
Right.
I know it sounds crazy. Just go with Christ.
Go ahead.
Start to figure it out.
Yeah. We talk about going with Christ. I'm a Christian. But I know a lot of non-Christians. And Christ, to them, some people, Christ is distant. Like, okay, give your life to God. Well, what is that?
Right.
You know, lay it at the altar. Well, I mean, we grew up in this.
Right.
So we know, we've been trained.
Exactly.
But for the people, what does that look like? What is that? Give it to Christ. What to give it to God? What do that mean?
It's one verse. It's all you need. And that's the thing that helped me. Draw near to me. I will draw near to you. You ain't got to bust up in church and act like you know it all. Sit on your bed and open your Bible and say, Lord, come here. And that's it.
Right. Well, the building is just a building. We are the church.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
And the reason why I say Jesus is because I had a moment when I turned 33. I was in Montgomery under Pastor Hart Ramsey, and he was teaching about grace. Now, I went to the church to 3rd grade, and when my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents passed away, there was no more church. So church happened if I spent the night at somebody's house and they happened to have a parent that was taking them to church. It was no church for me. My mom, we just weren't going to church. So when I was 33 is when I understood who God was. And I cried probably few years ago. I'm trying to see what grade my daughter was in because she attended Pinehurst. And she made a comment and was like, duh, Mom, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Like, duh.
Right.
I didn't know that. I didn't know God in 3 persons. I did not know that at 33. Do you understand that? I didn't know God for real. I knew that it was a Jesus. I knew baby Jesus. I knew the stories. All this. I didn't know. I know baby Jesus. I know about Easter, putting an Easter dress on, getting a bunny in a basket, going to Easter egg hunts.
Right.
But I did not know Jesus. For real. I didn't know him. For real. I was baptized, attended church, all kind of stuff when I was in the military. And it wasn't until I got under a teaching pastor who really looked and was like, do you know who Jesus is? And you know what my answer was? No. And I didn't even feel like bad about it. He didn't make me feel bad. I was like, no, I don't. Really don't. And that answer just changed my entire life because I not only learned who Jesus was, I learned who Toya was. Right. I learned who I am.
Through Jesus.
Through Jesus. I understand who I am in Christ.
Right.
So it was building blocks. And I always say, I use the word crazy, and I need to stop saying that. But it's just amazing, how wonderful God is. That my second duty station was in Montgomery, and it was at Gunner Air Force Base. That's the annex, because it's Maxwell, and then you got the annex, which is Gunner. I worked at the St. Ancel Academy. Okay. I was trying to leave my kid's dad, just extremely abusive, and end up not really separating. We separated, and it just came back because I was going to Germany.
Right.
I went from Germany to Alaska to Macon, Warner Robins, and back to Montgomery. And God said, leave him. Leave him. You don't want to leave him? He's going to try to kill you. And I'm going to show you.
Jesus.
Leave him. No, you're not going to do that. Okay. He showed me that he was going to try to kill me. And he did. I mean, he really did try to kill me several times. Not only, and it was set up, and this is a Marine who's a reconnaissance ranger, who's a sniper, who's been trained to kill.
Right.
So why was I even thinking when God's telling me that he's going to try to kill you?
Right.
Listen, child. Leave.
Right. Whew.
I have a question though. Do you remember the pastor's face when you told him, "No, I don't know who he is"? Do you remember what he looked like? Was he excited or?
I mean, it was just regular.
But that's probably common though now. Anyway, it's still today. There are a lot of young people who say they are believers but don't really know. There are a lot of young people, male and female, that are I guess impersonators.
Nominal.
Right.
Christian.
Right.
And
They want to make
people.
It's older people.
Oh yeah, right. Of course.
People.
Because I'm probably the youngest person in my church, right? So the crazy, I say crazy a lot too, right? So the crazy thing about it is, and this is something that I told my church is my first Sunday there. Before I started preaching, I didn't know the Bible. My sister and brother would laugh at me. They'd be like, "You the only one don't know nothing." So they would be bringing up Bible stories, and I'd be like, "I don't know." Moses did what? Hold on, let's run this story back. So then, when I got called into ministry, I was laying in my bed one day, and I was going through a lot, and I was just trying to, figure myself out. And then it sounded like a radio was tuning in my ear. And I'm like, I started doing this. I'm like, okay, I'm tweaking that. I'm tweaking. So something going, I'm hearing this or whatever, and this radio kept tuning. And so then it's like it's set. It's like the radio set, wasn't no music, but it was just completely quiet, wasn't no static anymore. And then God says accountability. So when he said accountability, I'm like, what do you mean? Because that's how me and God talk. I'm like, what you talking about? So you don't want to be accountable for what's going to come when I put you in this place. I was sick to my stomach. I did not want to do it. Because accountability will push the best Christian off the edge. I don't care how much you love God, how much you love the word. When you have to be held accountable for what you read and what you already know, it's like, okay, you know what? Now I got to whoop you with ministry because you knew better.
Okay,
so I'm sitting here trying to, okay, well, maybe this preaching thing ain't what you're trying to say. I want to go back. You gonna have to, and I always say, God, you gonna come down here and slap me, do something, because I done seen this church walk. I know church people.
Right.
I'm not doing this. And this is not my life. She said accountability again. To this very moment, I learn as I go. And people don't realize that about me because I'm a very practical preacher. God gives me the text, but one thing I can say is that he taught me how to be relevant to people. That is why I don't have to sit in a room full of preachers. I don't have a lot of friends for that very reason, because I don't speak the verbiage of a preacher. But what I do is understand the language of God. And so knowing the verbiage itself, I can know how to say it, but not really know the language. You can, just like you said, a guy from Hungary, English was not his first language, but he knew the verbiage to get your attention.
Right.
But when you get to know the language,
Right.
that changes the dynamic of who you can reach. We know the verbiage to talk to our little girls, but now we need to understand their language.
Right.
Listen,
Let's go right here. Listen, because we can talk all day.
Yes.
And I know, listen, I
you
know
have to have a part two.
Right, we're gonna need to. Let me ask you these questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Okay? What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Be you. Be you and follow your dreams, not what society expects.
Right.
Be you.
Right. Mo.
Speak up. You know what you saw, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Speak up. That's what I tell her. You know what you seen. You got a voice. Stop being afraid. Open your mouth and find out that you got support. Because you ain't going to find out before because you know how your God works.
Right. Pastor, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Game on. Fight for yourself. Because you're going to always win with the hand you have, even with bad cards.
What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. At 16, I was homeless. It's going to be okay.
What's the best advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you? Go ahead, Pastor.
Hang in there. My grandfather just passed away a couple months ago from COVID. I survived COVID in March. Was at a church service, and he told me then to hang in there. And so his last moments, that's what he said to me.
Wow.
And now, not only am I hanging in there for him and his legacy, I'm hanging in there because now I've built my muscle. I'm strong enough to hang out.
Wow. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
In most recent years, my late husband, he said, Capricia, stop telling people what you're planning and tell people what you're doing. Because you give people too much room to make their opinions.
Wow.
That's good.
So, yeah, I use that now.
Wow. That's really good. Mo?
Tough times don't last. Tough people do. Carolyn Wright. That was some of the best advice she's ever given me because I used to think that the world was just going to end, child. Oh my gosh. As soon as it dropped, it's not going to change.
Right.
But when she told me tough times don't last, and I've seen that they don't last, but the tough person, whoever you need to be in that moment, they do.
Right.
That helped me out major. And when she told me that, I was the head coach from the University of Cincinnati was coming down to Central High School for a home visit, and I was suspended. I had to beg the principal to let me on campus, and they only gave me my parameters within the gym. And she basically told me I can't offer you a scholarship. She told me how great of a player I was, but I was basically out of a whole scholarship because of my behavior. And I was real broke down about it, and it's something Coach Wright says all the time, but when she said it this time, it made me realize that wasn't the end of my career.
Yeah.
So.
Go ahead. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Be strong and courageous. God. That's Joshua 1:9. And he said, again, I tell you. So he not only told me once, he told me twice to be strong and of good courage.
Finish the sentence. Pain is.
My purpose.
Pain is.
Frustration turned inside out.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Necessary.
A gateway.
Wow. A gateway.
I like that.
I like that.
It is.
So if you had one thing you would say to, now that you all somebody gave you some advice, if you had one thing to say to a young lady who is homeless, struggling, right? Self-doubt, right? What would you say?
I would still say it's okay. You know, it's going to be okay. And it's funny because I'm pulling from everything to hang in there and be strong and courageous. So
Reach. We got to put one foot in front of the other. We can't walk with 2 feet at a time.
Right.
That's good.
It's a process.
come on now.
But you got to take one foot and step.
Right.
You have to actually move. So reach. You got to reach. You got to get yourself out that hole. You got to reach.
More moves.
Right.
Straight on in.
Right. Right. Mo, what would you say to a little girl who's struggling right now?
She told me. But it would be to make a move.
Make a move.
But do not confuse moving with progression. Sometimes being still is the best move you can make.
Wow.
That's good.
I love
That
it.
is so good.
Wow. That's good. What would you say?
I don't know. I'm gonna send them to all y'all. So y'all manifest. Because it's not enough to say it. When you speak it into the atmosphere, it gains weight. It's like a tornado. It gains power as it moves. When you manifest where you want to be, you see yourself already there, you're going to get it.
Jesus. I
Wow.
like it.
Well, listen, let me just thank you all again for being a part of this conversation. I did not plan to go there because the questions I had. Let me tell you something, but listen, I'm obedient. I'm obedient to what God has.
He said
So
it up.
right,
He
so
set
I'm
it
not
up.
gonna complain because it was better than the questions I had for real. I'm not gonna lie to you, but thank you again
Thank you.
for doing this. I
yeah,
hope
it
and
was
pray that this inspires somebody. I hope and pray that not only do you get up from a place that you've probably been too long, but that you reach out and help somebody else, because that's where true healing comes from. Is when you're able to, even in your brokenness, you're able to reach out and help somebody else. That's really how you help yourself. When you learn, you teach. When you get, you give. God bless you.
This video brought to you by MSW Productions.